Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Joe Taylor. This morning, another in the ongoing series of programs presented by the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning. The program, through the Northwest Institute of Research, oversees a grant from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Education. The goal of the program is to improve the outcomes for young children as they prepare for school. John Poza from the Pennsylvania Key is the host of the program, and he's with us throughout the series. Good morning, John, and who do we have on the show today?
Good morning, Joe. This morning we have Nancy Fishman from Washington, D.C. Nancy is the Deputy Director of ReadyNation, which is a national agency based in Washington, operating under the Council for a Strong America. Now, Nancy, I have known previously, who was the former executive director of Pennsylvania's Early Learning Investment Commission. Nancy's going to discuss how ReadyNation is working to improve the economy through effective investments in children and youth at the state and federal level. So welcome to the program, Nancy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So glad to finally have you. Well, first off, for our listeners who may not be familiar with ReadyNation, tell us a little bit about the organization and a little bit about why you do what you do.
Thank you. ReadyNation is the preeminent business leader organization. We work to strengthen businesses through better policies for young people from cradle through career. Our members are business leaders from small and medium-sized businesses up to Fortune 500 companies that see investing in evidence-based education programs as a way to build their future workforce, the community around them, and our country's economy. I do what I do because it's an amazing opportunity to work for a mission-driven organization that gives me access to business leaders who care about their community, gives me an opportunity to work with education, very important issue area for all of us, and I work with an awesome team of people here at the office and all across the country.
And just so our listeners know, ReadyNation was originally created in 2006 by the Pew Charitable Trust and a dozen other funders, and in 2014 it merged with America's Edge and started to operate under the Nonprofit Council for a Strong America. Now, part of ReadyNation, one of its missions is a component is working with communities in the area of early childhood education, which is kind of the focus of our program in the quality early learning area. So tell us a little bit about some of the projects and initiatives that are you're involved with in early childhood.
Absolutely. Early childhood really is the cornerstone of our work at ReadyNation and at Council for a Strong America. What we do is we recruit and engage business leaders to support good evidence-based practices that help all kids have the experiences they need before kindergarten, so that by the time they get to kindergarten, they're prepared to be successful in school and in life. So we work on state policy and federal policy. So, for example, in some states, we're working to move policies around creating quality rating systems so that parents know that when their child goes to an early learning center, whether that center has been rated as medium quality or high quality and what that might mean. In other areas, we work on expanding opportunities for professional development for teachers in early learning centers, because we know it's important that children have teachers that have been exposed to those practices that work and target early learning. Teaching a young child is very different than teaching an early or a later child. We want teachers to really have the professional development to know what's developmentally appropriate for a 3-year-old and not necessarily what's developmentally appropriate for a 10-year-old. So we work on all issues really around early learning. And as you know, we don't run any early learning programs ourselves. We engage the business community to support these policies and programs. We find that business leaders are often the ones who have the ear of the policymakers who can direct more state and federal money toward these programs. And policymakers listen to business leaders, and when they realize that it's important as a workforce development issue, we hope that they then target more public funds to these programs.
At this point, are there any metrics that can show a correlation between business investment in early learning in specific communities and the improvement of the economy in those communities, or is this all too new to yield any tangible, measurable results yet?
We've seen measurable results on a state level. We don't have the results broken down by community, but we've seen results on a state level, both short and long-term results. I know that in Pennsylvania, for every $1 invested in an early learning program, the return is almost $2, so an additional almost one entire additional $1. Now, these short-term dividends really pay off in that when you strengthen early learning programs, you hire more teachers, you open more centers. So there's the pay for the teachers, there's the employment of people who are building additional early learning centers or expanding centers. There's the money then that the people in these centers spend in their local community to buy the equipment and supplies that are needed. There's the additional income from the parents who have the ability to work because their children are somewhere safe. That's a short-term investment. We know that longer term, nationwide, that those children who have the advantage of a high-quality early education experience are more likely to be successful, graduate from high school, and go on to careers in colleges. And that return on investment is anywhere from $7 to $16, depending on how it's measured. It's a long-term investment, but it is an investment that shows a tremendous return for all of us.
Nancy, being from Pennsylvania, we know about your previous background, and you've been very much involved in early childhood. You were previously Director of Success by Six, which is the early childhood initiative of the United Way, and you were involved in it in the United Way of Carlisle and in Cumberland County. Tell us a little bit about where ReadyNation is in terms of the policies that it supports in the state of Pennsylvania.
ReadyNation is very supportive of Pennsylvania, everything from supporting expanded access to pre-kindergarten, especially for those families who have trouble affording it on their own, making sure that every child has access, if their family wants for them, to attend a year of pre-kindergarten before moving on to kindergarten. ReadyNation supports evidence-based home visiting programs, giving new mothers an opportunity to get help from a professional coach, if you will, helping them understand what's most needed for their newborn and how they can be good parents. We work on parent engagement strategies. We talk a lot about health and a culture of health in our work. And in Pennsylvania, we're also doing work around supporting career and technical education in schools. It's important that students later on in their school career have an opportunity to develop some collaborative-based work approaches, some opportunities for critical thinking and teamwork skills, and we see a lot of that in career and technical education, and we're working to help get the Perkins Career and Technical Education Act renewed and have it done in a way that will best help children develop the skills that the employers need.
Tell me a little bit about the work of ReadyNation in terms of how you leverage or at least advocate for funding in terms of how much you're involved with foundations in raising money for organizations, as well as the work that you do in any advocacy that you do on state levels in terms of public funding, and the difference between the two.
Great question. First of all, I should point out that our work here at ReadyNation and Council for a Strong America is primarily funded by foundations. We're fortunate to work with very generous funders who understand how important this work is and how important it is that we really use these business leaders as unexpected messengers for our efforts. And the way we do our advocacy is through our business leader members. We have them meet with members of Congress and state-level legislators. We have them write op-eds and letters to the editor in support of policies and programs that help young people. We have sign-on letters where we allow all our members across any given state or district an opportunity to sign on to a letter to a policymaker in support of specific legislation. We have press events. We have other speaking events. We give our members lots of opportunity to reach out in whatever way is best for them to the policymakers at either the state or federal level. We've been instrumental in everything from ESSA and making sure that there are preschool components of that to expanding tax credit programs.
I'd like to go a little bit deeper in that. The rallying cry for many politicians and the business leaders who support them is cut expenses, especially at the federal and state level. How do you actually convince them that spending on early childhood care and early childhood learning is not an expense but an investment? What are you telling them that they need to tell the legislators?
Well, it's sometimes difficult because the greatest return on investment from investments in early learning is a long-term return on investment. And it's sometimes difficult for those that have to make budgeting decisions to think long-term rather than short-term. So what we do is we show them the return on investment. We show them how much less expensive public programs will be. We show them the data that supports the fact that young people who are at risk of school failure are less likely to end up in prison if they have a high-quality early learning experience. We talk about how much more expensive prison is than early learning is. We talk about military readiness and how important it is for our nation's military to have young people who have the skills, fitness level, and mental health to join the military when they're 18 years old. We really approach it from many directions to talk about the investment not only paying off for the young people themselves, but for the community and society as a whole.
Now, when we talk about organizations and maybe it can be individuals, but for those who would want to join ReadyNation, so what is the process for doing so?
We have a great website. It's www.readynation.org, and on the website there's a video from the former CEO of Procter & Gamble, John Pepper, who talks to people about why they should join ReadyNation, and there's a link that they can click to join. I can tell you that joining ReadyNation is different than joining other organizations in that our work is entirely free. It does not cost anyone any dues or other long-term financial commitment to join ReadyNation. We don't have required meetings, and we give people an opportunity to opt in to the work that we do. We sign people up for our listserv and make sure we provide them with newsletters full of information on education. And then as we have work that's important in any specific state or district, we reach out to members who live or work in that district, and we ask them if they have any interest in doing an opinion editorial or appearing at a press event or reaching out to the policymakers in that area. And we take the time to educate our members as to why whatever they're asking is important for their work and their community. We target business leaders, but that can be defined however people want to define business leaders. Like I said, we have talked to small and medium-sized business leaders as well as those in Fortune 500 companies. We limit our work to business people because they really are unexpected messengers, especially in early education. So if you know of anyone that would be interested in joining ReadyNation, I would encourage them to go to our website and check us out some more and join. We have lots of great resources and materials and are very happy to share them with anyone who would find them of interest and use.
I'm sure that there are many corporations and CEOs from Pennsylvania, of course, that are probably part of ReadyNation as well. One of the things that I wanted to address, getting back to early childhood, is that, you hear the mantra often about the wanting universal pre-K. And while that may sound good, it has been done in some states, including the state of Florida, and has had mixed results because instead of just asking for universal, it really needs to be quality early childhood. And there is a difference, is there not?
There absolutely is a difference. That's an excellent point. Well, we would love to have all children have access to high-quality programs. We know that we don't want to lose the quality to focus on the all children aspect of that statement. The evidence shows that it's the quality and high-quality programs that really have the best return on investment. We're not talking about babysitting here. We're talking about true early learning experiences where children start to develop those skills that they will use for years to come, and not just early literacy and early math skills, but even the social emotional skills that will really make them most successful throughout their entire lives. So we like to talk about supporting access to high-quality programs. We know that the government has limited resources, so we like to target those families who have the most trouble financially affording these programs and helping to find scholarship and other state and federal monies to help children attend at least 1 year of pre-K before they start school. But for those families that can't afford pre-K on their own, we want to make sure that they also have access to high-quality programs, and that's helping to strengthen pre-K programs to really move them up through the quality scales.
I'd like to go off a bit of a tangent here. Apparently, I guess you served on a school board for a dozen years, and John does some reporting on school boards in our area. Because of the fact that Pennsylvania property taxes fund school districts, it seems most members of these school boards are there to protect the interest and pocketbooks of the taxpayers and not advocate for the district's kids. Was this a situation that you faced, and how does it get turned around so that boards make the education of students in their districts their top priority?
I really enjoyed my 12 years on a school board, and you're right, it is a balancing act, but the mission of school districts is to educate children to reach their fullest potential. So while it's important to protect the taxpayers' interests, the mission is clearly to educate the children, and sometimes that requires raising of taxes. School districts can't raise taxes too much ever since the Act 1 index came into play, but helping school board members realize that making investments in good quality teachers and programs that will help their children graduate with the skills they need to succeed, that really does protect the taxpayers as well. One of the things I always talked about when I was raising taxes is while we're stuck with a property tax mechanism to fund school districts, and while none of us want to pay more taxes, we also want to make sure that our property values remain high. So for me, that meant making sure that the district where I lived was an excellent district and a district that people wanted to move into, because I knew that someday I might want to sell my house. And that when I did sell a house, wanted to make sure that it was in an area where lots of people would want to buy because the school system is strong. And while that may have meant that I had to pay a slight increase in property taxes every year, I also protected the value of my home and helped it increase because I was in a district that everybody wanted to live in.
Nancy,
And
I am glad you brought that point up, because that is a point that we so often forget, and that residents and taxpayers in their school district forget. And very, very, very good point in terms of, what you have to think about in terms of bringing more people into the area because of the value that you're placing on the school district.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that when people scream that they don't want to pay more taxes, we should cut all the music programs and all the sports programs and all the AP programs. I think, boy, nobody would ever want to move into my district if my district didn't offer any of those programs. And all of a sudden, that additional $50 a year, which I know was a lot of money, but that additional $50 a year I had to pay in taxes may have cut my value of my home by $20,000 or $30,000 at least, because nobody wanted to live there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that point up. Nancy, you had, before going to ReadyNation, of course, you were in charge of the Pennsylvania Early Learning Investment Commission. And I can definitely see that was a great parallel to your current job, because you work with so many businesses and advocating and getting them on board with supporting quality early childhood education. So I would imagine that a lot of those same Pennsylvania business people you've been able to bring on board with ReadyNation as well, correct?
That's correct. And while we don't share the names of our members publicly because we don't want anyone to reach out to them, I can tell you that we've had a lot of support from the Early Learning Investment Commission members, because you're right, they've all been educated as to why investing in early learning is a good workforce development strategy. All the Early Learning Investment Commission members in Pennsylvania have had an opportunity to attend a high-quality early learning center and spend some time and see for themselves what it looks like, what the students are learning. I think most of them have also learned a thing or two from the young people in the centers, who are all well-spoken, excited to be at school, and excited to be learning and to show off what they're learning for visitors. And I think once people have an experience like that, it does make them strong advocates, and often lifelong advocates. I've had a number of business leaders who have retired from their day job, but who have chosen to keep active around advocating for high-quality early learning funding and programs, which is just amazing.
Absolutely. I wanted to thank you, because I know in your previous position with the PAK, you helped in us scheduling some of the same commission members that we've had on this program, and they were excellent advocates for early learning, and appreciate that. We only have a minute left, Nancy. You want to give us some closing thoughts about where you see ReadyNation going in the future?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I see ReadyNation continuing to recruit and engage business leaders across the country, strengthening our efforts, and even working internationally, as we realize that we are all part of a global economy, and we need a stronger world to help us all do well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy, for being on the program and talking about ReadyNation. I think it's a wonderful organization, and I wish you lots of luck and success. So hope to have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's our program for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks at the same time. You can go online to learn more at papromiseforchildren.com. For John Poza and the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning, I'm Joe Taylor. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.